Hi guys, Lexizzle here. Today I am joined with Leonie, very surprisingly. I was not planning on her being in the video, but here she is. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different that I haven't talked about on my channel yet. We're actually going to be talking about a certain book. Now, I've been wanting to do videos about books for a while since I caught back up to reading again. As a kid, I kind of had a hard time reading. It wasn't my favorite thing to do until maybe a year ago. I was just getting over a really bad breakup, and reading actually helped me kind of be myself again. That being said, I didn't know what book to really talk about on this channel until recently. And you'll never guess what kind of book it is. I do like me some book talk books. Okay, I am a big fan of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I do like Fourth Wing. I wasn't a big fan of the latest book that came out, but I could make a different video about that. And sometimes I like to go outside of book talk and kind of just find some things that I like on my own. This book I actually found on a TikTok, and it's a thriller, which I do like me some thrillers. I am a big fan of Frida McFadden and Stephen King. But this book had me gripped. Like, oh my god, it was so good. Could not get over it. And this book is none other than Confessions by Kanae Minato. Now, I will say, I am going to go into detail about this book. So if you want to read it, I highly suggest maybe waiting until I talk about how the book did and the views it's gotten. But if you don't care about spoilers, I'm going to be talking about the entire story. That being said, there's some stuff that is pretty gruesome, as I haven't read a book like this in a very long time, so trigger warning to some stuff. It's not a happy book. It's pretty dark, so you've been warned. But otherwise, without further ado, let's get into Confessions. So like I said, Confessions is a thriller written by author Kanae Minato. And as you can tell, it's a pretty short book. It's a short story that was published on August 5th, 2008 in Japan. It was later translated and published in English on August 19th, 2014 by Stephen Snyder. And apparently the book was so popular that it got adapted into a movie in Japan in, I believe, 2010. The story is about a middle school teacher named Yuko Moriguchi. She was a single mom to a 4-year-old daughter named Manami. Sadly, Manami passes away. After grieving over the loss, Moriguchi decides to retire. But before she leaves her class for the very last time, she gathers everyone together to reveal the real reason Manami passed away and calls out the students who were responsible for her death. This is the part now in the video where I'm going to be talking about the entire book in its whole. So if you were okay with just the description that I gave about the story and just want to know how it did and want to wait to read it on your own, then I would highly suggest skipping to that part of the video, which I will edit the timestamp as to when you should watch it. But I'm also counting down. We are going to talk about the story in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you've been warned, right, Wiggles? Wiggles is my witness, you've been warned. So for context, in this book, there are only 6 chapters, which doesn't look like there's only 6 chapters. But the chapters are pretty long, and I will go into detail about what goes on in said chapter because the chapters are based off of points of views from certain characters in the book. We're gonna start off right off the bat at chapter 1. And we are in the point of view of Yuko Moriguchi herself on her last day of teaching. This also happens to be, I guess, the last day of the school year at this point. Now, right before she gathers everyone together, she has everyone drink a carton of milk. Because at the school that she teaches, they participated in a milk time program to help the health ministry promote dairy products to children and their parents. After that, she gathers everyone together to announce her retirement from teaching. And of course, everyone's asking if it's in regards to the death of her daughter, to which she says yes. And I don't blame her. If something like that happened, I probably would not want to work anymore either and just kind of focus on myself. While most of the students were sad to hear of this, they understood why she was leaving. But before she leaves for good, Moriguchi talks to the students about the life and death of Manami. You see, when Moriguchi found out she was pregnant with her daughter, she found out that her husband actually contracted HIV. Despite both her and Minami testing negative for HIV, Minami's father decides to leave them for the well-being of Minami's life, as they were worried that she was going to be judged for being the child of a man who had contracted HIV. I will say, during this story, there's a lot of people that still don't quite, I think, understand HIV. So after he leaves, Moriguchi ends up becoming a single mom and a teacher at the same time. So she's trying to juggle both. And in doing so, sometimes she would bring Minami with her to school while she was teaching. And I believe there was a neighbor that was near the school with a dog that would help watch Minami when she needed help. So it was very sad when Minami was found floating dead in the pool right by the person that would watch her with the dog, and they ruled that as an accident. But after some digging, Moriguchi found out the real reason behind Minami's death. Before she goes any further, she does ask the students if they want to leave at this time or if they want to stay to listen to the story. And at this point, none of the students say that they want to leave. So she warned them, and they just decided to listen. And she then continues on with the rest of the story. She says that there are 2 students that are responsible for Minami's death, but instead of using their names, she calls them by student A and student B. She informed everyone that student A and student B started talking to each other because of certain events. Student A was upset that his teachers deemed his inventions dangerous, and student B was upset that he wasn't the role student to his peers and teachers. So the 2 of them planned to take the revenge on Moriguchi by going after her daughter Minami. According to Moriguchi, student A and B came up to Minami with a coin purse resembling a bunny she adored. Once A gave it to her, the purse shocked her unconscious. Thinking that this killed her, B decided to throw her body in the pool to make it look like an accident. Moriguchi decides not to trust the police in finding justice, but to give A and B her own revenge. So at the very end of this story, she explains that she mixed the blood of her husband's HIV-positive blood into the milk cartons of A and B's jugs. Pretty crazy. And I remember reading that chapter thinking, holy shit. So from there we go on to chapter 2, where we get to the POV of Mizuki Kitahara, the class president. She writes a letter to Moriguchi going into detail about what happened to the class after her speech. It's revealed that student A was none other than Shuya Watanabe, and student B was Naoki Shitamura. While Shuya decides to come back to school and take on all the bullying that he gets, Naoki stays home. She also explains that her new teacher, whose name is Werther, tries to stop the bullying from happening at the school, while trying to get Naoki back to the classroom. And since she was class president, Werther asks Mizuki to join him in going to Naoki's home. At first, Naoki's mom lets him in and complains about Moriguchi. And what about Naoki? Well, he's hiding in his room this entire time. But as time went on, Naoki's mom refused to let them in. And Naoki would still refuse to go back to class. And while this is all going on, Shuya is getting a shit ton of bullying. Like, non-stop bullying. And during one moment of bullying, they try to get Mizuki to bully him too. She accidentally hit him with a rock that she threw, but shortly then apologized because it hit him in the face. So the students were upset that she was apologizing to him and tried to force them to kiss each other. Oh, are you done? Is this story too much for you? I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Thank you. After this event happens, Mizuki and Shuya start to see each other a little bit more. And Mizuki decides to tell Shuya what she discovered. That she tested the milk cartons after the incident and discovered that the milk was not contaminated by HIV blood. And it turns out Shuya and Naoki don't have HIV. But Shuya also did some testing of his own and found out that he also wasn't HIV positive. Somehow the two started to get very close to the point where I guess after they found out this moment, they kissed and they start dating. Mizuki then tells Moriguchi that she actually had feelings for Naoki at first, but started having feelings for Shuya after the incident happened. That being said, Mizuki and Werther still tried their best to try to get Naoki back to school. And at this point, Werther screams something out to Naoki, trying to tell him how the bullying for Shuya apparently has died down a bit, and that somehow his classmates are willing to accept him, even though when Werther gave him a letter that the students wrote for him, it had a secret message that said, "Die, murderer." Then it's revealed that right after that last visit, Naoki murdered his mom. And the letter ends with Mizuki asking Moriguchi, "What do you think of your revenge now?" Kind of crazy turn of events, huh? So then we get to chapter 3, and the POV is Yuko Shitamura, who is Naoki's older sister. This is after the events of their mom's murder. And Yuko is very heartbroken and confused. She looks for any kind of info she can about the incident. Her dad didn't have much info because he was coming home from work all the time and barely noticed anything that happened. And Naoki wasn't talking to anyone in prison. Like, as soon as the incident happened, he was quiet. So Yuko goes to the diary that her mom left, and she ends up reading the diary for the rest of the book. The diary starts with her mom discussing the events of Moriguchi's visit. And by visit, I mean Moriguchi went to Naoki's home to talk with Naoki about what happened to Manami. And of course, Naoki's mom is upset. Overall, she just did not like Moriguchi from the start because she wasn't there to defend Naoki when he was involved in a school fight. But of course, when Moriguchi asks him questions about Manami's death, she's pissed. Not at Naoki though, but at Moriguchi. And at Shuya too. She believes that Shuya had something to do with the incident. And she kind of feels like Shuya kind of pushed it on Naoki to join. After talking to her husband and offering money because neither they nor Moriguchi wanted to get the police involved, they let it be and continued to talk bad about Moriguchi and Shuya. Then she goes on about what happened on Moriguchi's last day, pretty much did the same song and dance where she just complained about her. And I'm not gonna lie, this part kind of annoyed me because I felt like a good chunk of the diary was just her hating on Moriguchi and being like, my son Naoki would never harm a fly. He's the most perfect student ever. And I get it. As parents, they're gonna think their kid is perfect, but you know, I think what annoys me the most is that she thinks that her child could do nothing wrong. But nobody's perfect, you know? But then she starts to notice that Naoki is very obsessed with cleanliness. He's constantly cleaning everything that he touches. He even snaps at his mom when she tries to help him or touch things that he's touched. Concerned, she convinces Naoki to take him to the doctor. At this point, she's worried that Naoki is going to become a hikikomori, which is the Japanese term for someone who hides from society and locks themselves in their room or home. Doctor tells Naoki's mom that Naoki is suffering from autonomic ataxia. Hope I said that right. Which is a condition characterized by involuntary, irregular movements and a lack of coordination that affects the body's autonomic nervous system. So the doctor tells Naoki's mom that Naoki is pretty much needing to stay home until he's ready to go back to school. But nothing seems to be proving as days go by. And at one point, Naoki shaves his entire head bald. And he continues to snap at his mom and is continued to hide in his room, worried that about everything that he touches. And at one point, he goes to a store by himself and smears his blood on a bunch of merchandise. And when his mom asks why he did it, he clearly states that he did it so he could get arrested. He wanted to reveal what truly happened on the day of Manami's death. He had mentioned that before he dropped her in the pool, Manami opened her eyes, so he knew that she was alive before dropping her in the pool to drown to death. So after the last visit that Mizuki and Werther had, Naoki's mom believes that there's no way to save her son other than to kill him and then to kill herself for being a failure of a mother in her eyes. That was a hard read, especially towards the end, because Naoki was not a single child. He had two older sisters, one of which was also pregnant. I forgot to mention that. And it is stated that in that chapter that she does lose the baby after her death. Which then brings us to chapter 4, which is Naoki's point of view. He states in the chapter that he's not exactly what his mom thinks he is. And we can kind of tell that he's not entirely sane, but there were certain events that kind of caused him to go downhill. Like I mentioned, he was involved in a school fight, and he was struggling with his tennis club that he had joined, which was brought up in chapters 1 and 3 with Moriguchi. And while all this is going on, Shuya decides to randomly come up to him and start talking to him like they're friends. And when Naoki asks why, Shuya just says he's different from everyone else in the class. And as they start to get closer, and Naoki really thinks of Shuya as a friend at this point, Shuya introduces Naoki to his invention, which is the shocking purse. Shuya then tells Naoki that he wants to use this purse to punish someone. And after some thinking, Naoki comes up with the idea to punish Moriguchi by punishing Manami. Right away loves the idea, and they come up with a plan to meet up with Manami at the spot where she's always feeding the local dog, which is the neighbor that had I think that the pool was right nearby. They knew that she liked this particular bunny because when one of the boys went to the grocery store, they ran into Moriguchi and Manami really wanted that bunny purse. And she told her no, so they used that to their advantage, which is really sad. So once she falls for the trick and she is down on the ground, they assume right away that Manami's dead. And at that point, Shuya then tells Naoki that they were never friends, that he just used him to get to his goal, and that Naoki should spread the word of Shuya's victory. But as Shuya leaves, and Naoki starts to think what the actual fuck is going on, and I don't blame him, Naoki goes to the unconscious Minami and tries to make the death look more like an accident. But then she wakes up, and what does Naoki do in that moment? Does he apologize? Does he try to make up for everything that just happened? Nope. We already know, sadly, what happens, and thinking that he's succeeding in something that Shuya failed to do, Naoki purposely throws Minami in the pool. So when the news breaks out that Minami passed away in the pool, Shuya goes up to Naoki and asks, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck happened? And all Naoki does is say, don't talk to me. We're not friends, remember? And about yesterday, I'm not going to tell anybody. If you want to, go ahead. So no one says anything until Moriguchi confesses what happened on her last day, just 1 month after the incident. And once she announced that she so-and-so injected the HIV virus into their milk, Naoki was scared as hell that he may have gotten HIV. He decided to stay home and clean every single thing that he touched. That way his family would be deemed safe in his eyes. At the same time, though, he wasn't really taking care of himself. He wouldn't really clean himself, like brushing his teeth or shower. And one time his mom attempted to cut his hair, and he had a full-on panic attack. So he decided to shave his entire head. What I fully believed happened while I was reading this was that at first he was trying to pass the blame to Shuya because this was all his idea, but he was still blaming himself for Minami's death because he was the one that pushed her in the pool. And in doing so, Minami and Moriguchi are haunting him everywhere he looks, goes, you name it, they're haunting him. He was even nervous of Werther and Mizuki visiting his home, hence why his mom no longer allowed them to come into the home. He then decided that he wanted to try and get himself arrested, since the police ruled Minami's death as an accident and his parents as well as Moriguchi refused to tell them the truth. So that's why he went to the store and pretty much contaminated everything with his blood. He tries to tell his mom what really happened, hoping that she would help him go to the police to atone for his sins. But Naoki's mom thinks that it would be better to kill him and herself. And the worst part about this was that Naoki was totally okay with this entire plan until his mom said the one word that has triggered him his entire life: failure. In a frenzy, Naoki goes and grabs the knife and stabs his own mother to death. So with all that going on, we now get to chapter 5. We finally get Shuya's point of view. And where it seemed like Naoki was struggling mentally, Shuya just seemed like a pure evil kid. This chapter seems to be his last will before something horrible happens. He talks about his childhood on his little website that he has, and how his mom was incredibly smart and this amazing scientist who taught him everything she knew. However, she was very opposite from Naoki's mom. She was very hard on Shuya and was known to abuse him. Once his father found out about this, he was furious, and he filed for divorce. He then took custody of Shuya while Shuya's mom went to live on her own. Despite this, Shuya did everything he could to reconnect with her. This then leads to him creating inventions, and thus the shocking coin purse was created. Of course, he tried showing this invention to as many people as possible, including his teacher, Moriguchi. And she thought the device would cause more harm than good. And boy, did that piss Shuya off. This leads him to going to Naoki and killing Minami. And when he learned that he wasn't actually the reason Minami died, that also pissed him off. Naoki pretty much just ruined all of his plans, and he wanted to get his revenge by serving another act of violence. Then Moriguchi gave her speech to everyone in the class, and somehow he was excited to get the HIV virus. He was even okay with the bullying he received because he was cooking something up. But then months later, he takes a test and finds out that the HIV is negative. And he's pissed again! Yet somehow, he gets distracted by Mizuki, who is forced to bully him, though she doesn't want to. And like it was mentioned in chapter 2, Mizuki and Shuya kiss and they form a relationship. But, oh, big shocker, the relationship doesn't go very well. He thought Mizuki was different from everyone else, but an argument leads him to think that she's really not that different from everyone else in his life. And then, shit hits the fan when she mentions that he has mommy issues. So what does he do? He chokes her to death. This poor girl literally was just with him because she felt for him and she had feelings for him, and this fucked up individual decides to kill her because he's got mommy issues. A week after he kills Mizuki and hides her body, Shuya finds the building that his mom now works at and soon finds out the scientist that was intrigued by his pouch months ago before he showed his invention to Moriguchi is now married to his mom, and she's expecting his child. Shit hit the fan at that point, and Shuya was at his limit. So he decides to take his revenge on the school by hiding a bomb. Then he planned to kill himself right after that happened. But something happens. He tries to let the bomb go off and it doesn't actually go off. And shortly after, he gets a random phone call. We then go to the very last chapter, and the chapter is starting off as a phone call. At first, it seems like it's Shuya's mom, but nope, because this is how the chapter starts off with. Shuya? It's Mama. Is that what you were expecting? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it isn't Mama. This is Moriguchi. It's been a while, hasn't it? Fuck him up, Moriguchi! Let's fucking go! Yeah, Leone! God! I just got excited. Moriguchi did not deserve any of this. Manami should be alive. Shuya's a fucked up individual and should not have done the things that he did to Naoki, Moriguchi, or Manami. I said it. But anyway, she tells Shuya that she saw his letter right before he was actually going to blow up the school. Before she talks about what actually happened, she talked about what happened the day before she gave out the milk cartons to him and Naoki. Her husband actually caught her and managed to replace the milk cartons before the kids arrived to class. And when she got home, they talked about it, and he confessed what he did, because he believed that the boys can somehow be rehabilitated. This guy had a really pure soul, and what happened to him also was tragic. Everything in this story is tragic, but I really do feel for him. Sadly, her husband passes away shortly after the incident, and at the same time, Moriguchi's replacement is hired, and he's none other than Werther. And he's constantly asking for advice on how to handle the class, not really knowing that Moriguchi was the one that taught the class in the first place. And in doing so, she got constant updates about Naoki and Shuya. And when she heard about what happened to Naoki, she felt like she got her revenge on Naoki. But that still left Shuya, and he was a little bit harder to get revenge for. She started going on his sites and found out about the plan. She was upset that Mizuki was involved, and she told Shuya that she contacted the police to arrest him and to find Mizuki's poor body. But you're probably wondering, did Moriguchi defuse the bomb? What happened to the bomb? Why didn't it go off? This is the part in the book where my jaw completely dropped. Because not only did Moriguchi take the bomb and defuse it, she relocated the bomb to Shuya's mom's office. So when he detonated the bomb, it didn't go off at the school. It went off in the building that Shuya's mom works at. So pretty much Shuya killed his mom. The one person that he really wanted to get attention from. He killed her and didn't even know it, all because of Moriguchi. And the book ends with Moriguchi saying, "Funny, I think I've finally had my fill of revenge now. And with luck, I've at last started you out on the road to your own recovery." God fucking damn! That is the kind of shit I absolutely love when I read a book. Like, if you're getting to the point of the book where your jaw is dropping and it just won't stop dropping until you finish the book, you know you've read a good book. And that's exactly what this book is for me. And if you feel as shook as I do while reading this or watching this video about this book, you're probably wondering why you haven't heard of this book if you haven't. Because I will say, when you look up thrillers on Book Talk or when you look it up on the internet, you're going to get recommendations for like Stephen King and Frida McFadden right now because she is very popular. You're not going to get this book, and it's very, very disappointing. But a little history about Confessions. This book came out in 2008, and it was a huge success in Japan. It was the top-selling novel in Japan at the time, and it won 3 awards. The Shosetsu Suri New Writers Prize in 2007, just for the first chapter alone, I should add. And I'm sorry if I'm fucking up these words. And then in 2015, they won 2 more awards, the Japanese Booksellers Award and the Alex Award. Yoni. Confessions was also nominated for the Strand Critics Award for Best First Novel, as well as the Shirley Jackson Award for Best Novel, both in 2015. And the book got so popular that in 2010, they made a Japanese film about it. And I heard that also did amazing. And even when you look at the book, it says right on top, it's the #1 international bestseller. But like I mentioned earlier, nowadays, when you look up books on the internet, the books you're gonna get are the ones that are popular on TikTok, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Fourth Wing, and sadly Icebreaker. I will never read that. You will never make me read that book, ever. And then when you try to look up thrillers, like I mentioned, you get Frida McFadden. But this one doesn't show up anymore, and it should. When I looked this up on Goodreads, which I do have a Goodreads account, and if you want to follow me, I will link it. I will put it in this video. But when you look this up on Goodreads, Confessions has a rating of 3.94 stars out of 5, with 64,892 ratings and 11,743 reviews. So if this video doesn't get you to want to read Confessions, I really don't know what will. And at this point, if people ask me if they're looking for a thriller to read, I'm always going to recommend this book. I really don't think I've read a book that has impacted me this much as Confessions. Like, this might be so far my book of the year of 2025. And that's really saying something, because as of recording this, I just read and finished Lightlark, literally today, and that was really good. But nowhere near, like, this might be my favorite thriller of the year. And who knows, maybe something else will rock my socks off. I highly doubt it though, because this is pretty up high on the list of my favorite books. So that was my video essay, if you will, about Confessions by Kanae Minato. I really liked making this video. I really liked making a little script for it, because I have to make a script for stuff like this. And I honestly just love talking about books. Like I said, books have been really helpful for me. Books have been a very fun hobby for me. You know, I started reading after a really bad breakup, and I have been obsessed with it ever since. It has definitely helped me out when I have felt really sad or depressed, or when I'm looking for a good distraction. Reading has definitely helped, and I have read about some pretty amazing worlds, like A Court of Thorns and Roses and Lightlark. And, you know, some of them are not always happy. Some of them are depressing, like this book. But, you know, I will literally read anything at this point that isn't corny and isn't too horny. Alright. Yeah, but if you think I should make more videos about books, let me know. Who knows, I might make a video about Lightlark if you guys really want me to. Or I could do any of the other books I've read. And if you want to know what I read, I do have my Goodreads account, which I will put in the description as well. So you're more than welcome to follow me on Goodreads. But that is all for today. If you like this video, you can go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more of my content, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to get notified for any time I post a video, hit that notification bell and you'll get a notification right away. But thank you guys so much for watching. And I just want to thank Leonie again for joining. My little love over there. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.